I saw and I heard the song that you offered just now, and I felt pain, also joy, courage.
Thank you.
Where do you get these feelings from?
You know, for me it all started on Broadway. I was part of the original company of a very famous musical called Dreamgirls. And you know, I always tell people that Dreamgirls for me was the best and the worst of all times. And the worst, of course, was being a part of the great musical Dreamgirls. That was the best, but the worst was when my friends just started dropping dead. They were dropping dead of a mysterious disease that had no name, and people were afraid. They didn't want to talk about it. They ignored their friends, and I saw too many of my friends die under stigma, shame, and silence. And that is when I decided that I had to find my voice on this issue and speak up for my friends in their memory. So for the past 30 years, I've been talking about HIV and AIDS. It hasn't made me a whole lot of friends. It hasn't helped push my career forward. It hasn't given me a whole lot of people on my team. But I promised in the memory of my friends that I would continue to find my voice and raise awareness about this disease so that we at some point could eliminate the stigma, the shame, and the silence. And I'm so sad that now, almost 30 years later, people are still being newly diagnosed. That in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., we have HIV and AIDS infection rates that rival sub-Saharan Africa. A disease that we know is 100% preventable. But still, people don't want to hear that you must get tested.
Sometimes speaking about HIV and AIDS didn't get you new friends, or perhaps you lost friendships. Why do you think in communities like black and brown people, we don't want to talk about these things? What is it?
Do you know it's hard being black and brown in America? It is hard just being ourselves, much less having to have one more pressure in life for us to deal with. Having to deal with something, a sickness like this, for black and brown people is difficult. It is hard because we have enough trouble just being ourselves in America.
And sometimes that difficulty to speak out leads to other infections because the lack
Absolutely.
of honesty.
And you know, for some of us people of color, it's an issue of self-esteem. Do I love myself enough to speak up for myself? Am I in a community or a situation or around a group of people who are being respected? Do people come to my aid when I call for them? Do police come into my community respecting me, or do they come to my community with preconceived notions of me? When I call an ambulance, are they there for me? Is there a grocery store for me to go to get good food? Who is there for me or who is not there for me has a great effect on how I feel about me. That's why it's hard for black and brown people. Who's there for us? Who's there for me?
Now, there is a difficulty sometimes when we talk about HIV for those who are already infected, and we try to send a message that yes, you can still live your life, you can still move on, you can still have a productive life. And those who are not, we tell them it's really bad, don't even, risk yourself. So there's like a double speech. How can we handle both situations?
We are giving people mixed messages. And it's hard when you give a mixed message because you don't know who to understand. You don't know who to believe. You don't know which message is correct. You don't know what is right for you, what to do. You know, people tell you, okay, it's all right to reveal your status, but then you get out there, you reveal your status, and you have people turn around, they shun you, they hate you, worse than that, they beat you, or they talk about you behind your back, and if you're in certain communities, they talk about you to your face, so you don't know what to do. Where are you safe? And that is hard to figure out. So sometimes I say, you've got to find a support group, or you've got to find that group of people who understand you and have the message that relates to you. And that is not easy to do, because in able to search for help, you have to reveal yourself and let people know that you need help. And if you don't find your own personal voice, then it's hard to get help. So once again, you see, it's those mixed messages that are definitely out there.
Sometimes I speak to young kids, especially who are accepting himself, their family support being gay, being lesbians, and they have such a confidence on the sexuality, but at the same time that confidence translates into having a lot of freedom when it comes to sex. You think it's better to tell them, you know what, HIV will kill you, you better protect yourself? Or
I can't tell you that you're being gay, HIV and AIDS is going to kill you, because trust me, I know an awful lot of straight people who have died or are living with HIV. HIV and AIDS affects us all. Yes, if you practice certain behaviors, if you practice certain kinds of sex, if you inject drugs, you are more likely to contract the disease. But at the same time, if you're one of those people who thinks you will not contract the disease, you are once again more likely to contract the disease.
in other words, being comfortable with our sexuality doesn't mean to go crazy and start doing everything.
No, it's just like if you have to tell all young people, whether they're gay or straight, you must have sex responsibly or not at all. And when I say not at all, understand that there's nothing wrong with abstinence if that's what you choose for yourself. But if you choose to have sex, you must have sex responsibly. If you do not do that, sex in this new millennium can kill you. That's a fact. There is no cure for HIV. There is no cure for AIDS. You are your only cure, and that is by being responsible, using a condom, getting tested, or not having sex at all.
Last topic. You mentioned a lot of straight people are dying with AIDS.
Yes.
And especially African American women. It's
Yes.
a high rate. And that leads us to talk about bisexual men.
Yes.
What would you tell men who are living a double life? Being bisexual is not wrong, but
it's very interesting. In the black and brown community, a lot of our men live double sexual lives, but they do not talk about it. Why do they not talk about it? They don't talk about it because it's hard enough being a black man in America. It's hard enough being a brown man in America. So you add this on top of that burden. What they want is to be a man. Look, certain black men can't even have the keys to their own house open the door. Okay? So when you add all of this on top of it, it gets very difficult.
in other words, being bisexual is not necessarily wrong, but it's how you live your life, I guess.
Exactly. It's all about how you live your life. I could never stand here and tell you that being gay is wrong. I believe in God. God doesn't make mistakes. God makes human beings. And we all come to this earth flawed. A lot of straight people are liars, adulterers. They're sinners. I mean, what? So now you're going to tell me that being gay or whatever is a sin? No. You're a human being just like everybody else. You got to love yourself.
What do you tell a woman who finds out that his boyfriend or husband is bisexual, or at least suspects?
Here's another thing. If you suspect that you're in a relationship with somebody who is sleeping with women or men, depending upon who you are in this conversation, that becomes an issue of trust within your relationship. And they need to tell you, and if you even suspect it a little bit, you need to have the conversation straight up front and directly. Because you know what? If they're not being sexually responsible with you, who ends up getting hurt? You do. And in fact, you ought to demand that your partners get tested. You can visit, there's a line called testtogether.org. Testtogether.org. You take your partner, you go get tested. You sit there at the computer, visit testtogether.org, put in your zip code. A number of places will come up where you can go and get tested for free. You and your partner, you go and get tested. You take your children, you go and get tested. But do what you got to do, because you matter, you count, and you're important. I'm Sheryl Lee Ralph. I love you.